I was spoiled rotten by my family, and I never treated my fiancé like a proper human being. If his tone was too harsh, I cried. If he didn't report his schedule to me on time, I cried. If he was too aggressive in bed, I cried. Until one day, I started seeing lines of floating text like live stream comments. Doesn't the male lead prefer resilient, innocent girls? How can he stand the spoiled, arrogant heiress for so long? Ugh, I seriously can't stand the female supporting character. When is the male lead going to bankrupt her family for the true heroine? I really want to see this spoiled princess end up as a beggar on the streets. Haha. Bankrupt? A beggar? No way, absolutely not. Terrified, I stopped throwing tantrums and picking fights with him, and I actively started keeping my distance. But to my surprise, he became incredibly paranoid, convinced that wild dogs outside were trying to seduce me. He even started gaslighting me constantly. Those wild men out there are only after your money and your looks. Only me, I let you use me however you want, and every cent I earn is just for you to spend. When the floating comment appeared, I had just finished undressing and was begging him to play some special games with me. Darling, everyone else has tried it. I want to try playing like that too. If you don't agree, I'm going to cry right here and show you. Before I could finish my threat, I saw the comments. I was so startled I almost bit my tongue. Arthur held my waist side, and his tone was a bit heavy. No, stop messing around. Even though I really want to see it, I just want to say this kind of service is strictly reserved for the true hero, and the supporting character is asking for way too much. Just thinking about the blissful life the male and female leads are going to have according to the synopsis makes me drool. I instinctively looked down at the man in front of me. The thought that he would be intimate with someone else in the future made me feel incredibly wronged. But then I recalled the very first comments I saw. My family was going to be bankrupted by Arthur in the future, and I, a spoiled princess, was going to become a beggar. Compared to that, Arthur getting intimate with someone else didn't seem so important anymore. I pouted, my mind racing, but the more I thought about it, the more wronged I felt. This bastard was going to bankrupt my family for another woman. But once I thought it through, I still compromised. I carefully climbed off him. I timidly pulled the covers over myself. Arthur watched my series of movements, stunned for a moment. It took him a good while to squeeze out a few words. It's only 11 o'clock. I was an addict. Once I got a taste, I would keep him up until midnight, every time refusing to let him sleep until he had served me perfectly. I turned around and looked at him with teary eyes. I acted exceptionally understanding. I was being unreasonable. I disturbed your rest. You should go to sleep early. He didn't say a word, his face just turning exceptionally dark. After speaking, I even thoughtfully pulled the covers up over him. Then I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. I suddenly realized I wasn't wearing anything. I always liked sleeping naked, but in the past, Arthur hated it the most. At first, whenever I slept naked, he would get frustrated and get up to take cold showers multiple times a night. He'd even scold me and tell me to put some clothes on. But every time, I'd cry, put them on feeling indignant, then take them off again, and yell at him fiercely. This is how I sleep in my own house. If you don't like it, don't sleep with me. Then I'd sulk by myself, and Arthur would ultimately have to compromise. Thinking about it now, he probably thought I was dirty, which is why he took so many showers. I threw off the covers. He opened his eyes and instinctively reached out his hand toward me. I completely ignored it and started to get up to put some clothes on. Looking at the sexy nightgown draped over the foot of the bed, I hesitated not at all and went straight to the closet to dig out a long-sleeved, long-pants pajama set. After buttoning the very top button of the pajamas, Arthur finally spoke. Why are you putting clothes on? I looked at him, smiled, and said naturally, to sleep duh. Meeting his surprised and confused gaze, I thoughtfully added, otherwise, I can just go sleep in the guest room. I thought he would be thrilled that I was finally letting him get a peaceful night's sleep. Instead, he got up with a stony face and took long strides toward me. I don't have any morning meetings tomorrow. I'm not going to the office until the afternoon. Stop throwing a tantrum. I looked at him, not understanding what his explanation was supposed to mean, but I caught a subtle difference in his tone. It was unhappiness and impatience. I had seen a lot of floating comments earlier. One of them mentioned that the true heroine everyone was talking about was currently working as an intern assistant right by Arthur's side. His unhappiness, could it be because he couldn't wait to go see that heroine tomorrow morning? In the past, I used to complain a lot about Arthur being too busy. I even threatened to break off the engagement and find someone else for a corporate marriage who had time to keep me company. Because of that, Arthur had no choice but to take half a day off every few days just to stay home with me, which resulted in him frequently having to work overtime until midnight. Thinking about it, I decided I'd better be more understanding now. Otherwise, he'd just grow to hate me more and more. Once he caught feelings for the heroine, I'd really become a beggar. I've only lived the good life for 20-something years. I haven't had enough yet. Even though my heart felt uncomfortable, I forced down the sour feeling, pouted, and said, you should go to work early tomorrow. You don't need to stay with me. The moment the words left my mouth, Arthur's face turned completely black, like the bottom of a cast iron skillet. What are you throwing a fit about now? I didn't say anything, just looked straight up at him. He looked down at me, turned around, and walked away. The moment the door closed, his tone was far from pleasant. Chloe, my patience is limits. I can't keep indulging your baseless tantrums forever. I was heartbroken for a long time because of that sentence. I tossed and turned all night, unable to figure out where exactly I had thrown a tantrum. I was clearly being so understanding, but eventually, I managed to fall asleep. When I got up in the morning, I opened the door of the adjacent guest room. I wandered around the 3,000 square foot penthouse. There was no sign of Arthur. He really couldn't wait to get to the office to see that heroine. I listlessly ate the breakfast left for me in the microwave. Still fuming, I turned around and texted my older brother. I want to break off the engagement with Arthur. My brother immediately blew up when he saw the message and FaceTimed me right away. Tell me, did that bastard Arthur make you angry again? I didn't dare tell my brother about the floating comments. Feeling stifled and suffocated, my lips trembled, and I burst into tears, crying out, he doesn't love me at all. My brother nagged and coaxed me for a long time. Finally, he asked with heartache, do you really not want to be with him anymore? I nodded. He added, then we'll call it off. But our family's joint project with the Sterling family isn't finished yet. Let's milk them for a huge sum and then call it off, okay? Then you can use the money we made off him to keep 10 or 8 toy boys. That'll piss him off. How dare he not love my family's little princess? The audacity. I thought about it. The sky is big, the earth is big, but money is the biggest. Delaying the breakup a bit was fine. Chloe, let me tell you something. Men are nothing. In this world, besides our dad and me, no man is reliable. The next second, I saw my brother transfer $5 million to my account. The next second, I saw my brother transfer $5 million to my account. I beamed, nodding furiously. MH, I knew you loved me the most. I flutteringly kissed my phone screen several times. Meanwhile, at the company, Arthur had checked his phone who knows how many times. He had been at the office for a full 4 hours today, and the message in the chat box, breakfast is in the microwave, remember to eat, remained unanswered. Not to mention, there was no sign of the usual good morning or the routine check-in messages. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he picked up his phone and checked the home security cameras. He saw the person who was throwing a tantrum last night lounging on the sofa with her legs crossed, laughing so hard she was shaking. She was kissing her phone screen over and over again, saying affectionately, I love you the most. When a male voice from the phone on the camera feed replied, I love you the most too. Arthur completely lost it. The veins on the hand gripping the phone bulged instantly. With a loud smack, he threw the phone onto the desk. He leaned back helplessly in his chair, tilted his head back, closed his eyes, and exhaled a heavy breath. As if forcefully suppressing the raging fire in his heart, he said through gritted teeth, so that's how it is. Chloe, you've really done it this time. Since I had made up my mind to break the engagement, I needed to start keeping my distance from Arthur immediately. So I didn't send him a single message all day. Even when he got off work, I didn't urge him to hurry home. After taking a fragrant bath, I very sensibly moved all my things to another guest bedroom. Just as I finished packing, I pulled out my phone. I saw several messages from Arthur. Do you want some wontons from Joyful Dumplings? I'll buy some on my way home. Or I can come back and pick you up and we can eat at the restaurant. You're not home. There was only a camera in the living room. I had been busy in the bedroom packing my clothes and cosmetics the whole time. I hadn't even turned on the lights in the living room. I looked at the long string of messages that came after. Where did you go? Reply. It's going to rain tonight. Come home early. Friends are hosting a get-together. We'll be home late. Never mind. I'm not coming home. Seeing the last message, I quickly typed a reply. Okay. The moment the message sent, Arthur's call came in. His tone was extremely displeased. The message I just sent meant I'm not coming home tonight. I nodded and said flatly, I know. He added, I'm going out drinking. I obediently replied with an okay. There was a long silence on the other end, followed by a beep as he hung up the phone. Not long after, the front door of the penthouse opened. Arthur threw his car keys onto the entryway table with a clack. When he looked up and saw me at home, the expression on his face softened significantly. I looked him up and down and saw he was carrying a takeout box from Joyful Dumplings. I was stunned. Didn't you say you were going out drinking? He looked at me, his lips pressed into a thin line, and said casually. I got stood up. I blinked, looking at the takeout box in his hand. He looked down. I passed by and picked it up on the way. Joyful Dumplings was in the night market district on the south side, but our penthouse and his company were downtown, and his company was more towards the north side. This, on the way, was a bit of a stretch. He opened the box, and sure enough, it was the small wontons. I used to love the wontons from that place the most, but they didn't offer delivery, so you always had to go buy them yourself. In the past, whenever I got hungry in the middle of the night, I'd threaten Arthur to go buy them for me. If he didn't want to go, I'd throw a fit and say, if you don't go, it means you don't love me. Even though he was reluctant, by the time I finished taking a shower, he would already have his clothes on and be out the door to buy them for me. But today, I didn't really have the appetite for them. In the afternoon, my brother had ordered a ton of food for me. Cupcakes, boba tea, and some unhealthy but delicious junk food. Now my stomach was completely full, and I had zero appetite. He watched me not taking a bite for a long time, then turned to look at the various takeout bags and boxes on the coffee table. He frowned, turned around, and started cleaning them up. Eat less garbage. Before he could finish, he saw the name Mr. Q on the delivery receipts. His hand froze, and he took a deep breath. Junk food. He gritted his teeth, and after a long pause added, especially when it's ordered by some shady character. Every word sounded like it was ground out from between his teeth. I wasn't happy hearing that. Those are all my favorite foods. He scoffed. Are you two that close already? He even knows what you like to eat. I nodded matter-of-factly. Of course. Besides my dad, he's the man who loves me the most in the world. That sentence seemed to trigger something in him. With a bang, he threw my unfinished boba tea into the trash can. When he turned around, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He went back to the bedroom and saw that all my things had been moved out. He came out with a dark face again. Where's your stuff? I blinked, the boba he just threw in the trash still in my mouth. I thought it was a waste, so I fished it out. Luckily, there was nothing else in the trash can, so it was still drinkable. Arthur looked at the untouched wontons on the dining table, then looked at me. His anger spiked. Is the stuff he orders really that good? I nodded. It's delicious. The door was slammed shut with a bang again. If it were my usual temper, if he dared to throw a fit at me, I would have torn the roof off. I took a huge sip and puffed my cheeks out. I'm going to drink it. I'm going to drink a huge gulp. But half an hour later, I was completely dumbfounded looking at the 20 cups of boba tea at the door. Just as I was about to bring them inside, a large hand reached out from behind me. Arthur gave me a sidelong glance. He said breezily, they're all your favorite flavors. My mouth dropped open. I remembered he was just throwing a tantrum at me. Okay, he was definitely throwing a tantrum at me. He put the boba away, then went back to his room with a cold face. Watching him close the door, I didn't think much of it. I turned and went to the guest room. I don't know if it was because of the boba or because I wasn't used to the bed. I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Eventually, I took out my phone and started reading a web novel. As I read, the tears wouldn't stop. Just as I was wondering how the male lead could torture the female lead so badly, the bedroom door opened. Arthur climbed into my bed. He suddenly said coldly, break it off with him and I won't hold this against you. I didn't say anything. He just flipped my body over. Seeing my face covered in tears, he panicked. I sobbed and complained about the male lead in the angst novel. How can he be so mean? Arthur gritted his teeth. What did that bastard do to you? Break up with him. Stop contacting him. He's only going to hurt you. Those wild men out there are only after your money and your looks. Otherwise, he wouldn't order you cheap junk food and only get you 1 cup of boba. Unlike me, I let you sleep with me, and every cent I earn is just for you to spend. Sleep however you want, spend as much as you want. I'm never stingy. I sniffled, not understanding what he was talking about. Just as I was about to ask, my phone chimed, and the screen lit up. It was a message from my brother. QZ. Little treasure, are you still sad? I picked up my phone and replied, not sad anymore. Arthur, who was next to me, snatched the phone away. He said in disbelief, Chloe, you forgave him after one little question? Then what am I? The next second, ding, the screen lit up again. He's just a clown. I quickly snatched the phone back. Looking at him, I said, feeling a bit guilty. He's not talking about you, do you believe that? He didn't speak. His lips were just pressed into a thin line. It looked like he didn't believe it. Seeing him like this, the comment, spoiled princess becomes a beggar, flashed in my mind. I instantly felt cowardly. I carefully reached out and tugged at his pajamas. Are you mad? He let out a muffled My voice went soft as I shook his sleeve. Don't be mad, okay? His voice was a bit heavy as he reluctantly replied, okay. Arthur was like a piece of doggy plaster, refusing to leave no matter what. Originally, this wouldn't have been a big deal, but after lying there for a short while, he started getting all clingy again. He started kissing my face, then kissing my lips. Finally, those hands disobeyed orders and slipped into my pajamas. He rubbed affectionately against my ear, his voice low and raspy. Can you sleep wearing clothes? I mumbled groggily. His hands started unbuttoning my clothes. I had gone straight to bed after showering. There was nothing under my pajamas. Once stripped completely bare, my sleepiness completely vanished. I grabbed his wandering hands, trembling as I said, what are you doing? He pinched my waist and kissed my lips. Do you still want to play that game from last night? This damn seducer. I hesitated for a moment, thought about it, and my mind spun. Are you begging me? Yeah, I'm begging you to love me. I internally scoffed at the floating comments. See? He's the one begging to play with me. He's forcing me. I'm not some vicious supporting character, and I'm definitely not cannon fodder. I lifted my chin and hooked my arms around his neck. I said haughtily, fine, then I'll take good care of you tonight. He buried his face in the crook of my neck and kissed at his tone, carrying a faint smile. Okay. In the middle of the night, today's Arthur not only took direction well, but was incredibly gentle. I was very satisfied. I was almost reluctant to give him up to the heroine. When it was over, he carried me to take a nice, fragrant shower, then held me as I fell into a deep sleep. Not long after, the steady sound of breathing came from the person next to him. Arthur quietly picked up the phone from under the pillow. He skillfully entered the passcode and meticulously scrolled through the WeChat history. He accurately found the chat box labeled QZ. He clicked in and glanced at the username. Super invincible handsome guy. Arthur looked at it, momentarily speechless, and cursed, wild dog in his head. He then scrolled through the chat. There were only a few sparse sentences. The very first sentence was, I want to break off the engagement with Arthur. Seeing that sentence, Arthur felt a sharp pain in his chest. He really couldn't figure out what he had done wrong recently to make her want to call off the engagement. Was it because he didn't let her play that game last night? But it wasn't that he didn't want to. It was just that they had played a little too rough recently, and he had accidentally hurt her. That's why he refused. He looked at the message. He's just a clown. He let out a light scoff. A wild dog trying to sow discord dared to call him a clown. He raised his hand and typed a few words. Want to meet up tomorrow? He didn't expect the other party to reply instantly with an okay. Arthur was furious, still replying to messages in the middle of the night. Must be a playboy, definitely a deadbeat loser. And he thinks he can compete with him? He didn't hesitate to type in a time and address for tomorrow's meeting. He prepared to meet this wild dog face to face, throw a check at him, and tell him to get the hell away. He deleted the chat records on the phone. Not only did he mute notifications for the man's chat, he also hid the conversation entirely. Only then did he finally hold the person next to him, satisfied, and fall into a deep sleep. My sleep quality has always been excellent. If it weren't for the crazy bombardment of floating comments in my head early in the morning, I could have slept until noon. The heroine is here to deliver documents to the male lead. Wait, when she goes back, she's going to get hit by an e-bike and hurt her foot. I get so excited thinking about the male lead abandoning the supporting character to go take care of the injured heroine. Why is this female supporting character still sleeping? If she wakes up and sees a woman standing in the living room, she's definitely going to throw a tantrum and cause a massive scene with the male lead. Wouldn't that speed up the progress between the male and female leads? All author, don't write the female supporting character making things difficult for the heroine. She's suffered enough. She grew up with no parents, lived under her uncle's roof, and now she has to deal with the male lead's flock of women at work. It's too much. After reading the comments, I shot straight up in bed. Without a second thought, I rushed out of the bedroom. The comments were right. There was indeed a girl in professional attire standing in the entryway of the living room. Seeing me come out, she smiled and gave a slight nod as a greeting. According to the novels I read, shouldn't this be the part where Arthur carefully supports the heroine by her waist as she accidentally trips? And then someone like me, the female supporting character, starts breaking down and causing a scene. What I originally planned was if I came out and saw that scene, I would put on an act of being wronged and helpless bite my lip and say to Arthur with red eyes, let's break up. Then he would discover his inner feelings for the heroine, feel immense guilt, and compensate me with tens of millions of dollars. A peaceful breakup, and I wouldn't have to worry about becoming a beggar. But to my surprise, what I saw was the front door open, and the girl was just standing properly on the rug in the entryway. At that moment, Arthur came out of the study holding a signed contract. He stood next to me, looking down at my feet, not wearing shoes again. Hearing this, I was just about to turn around and go back to put on my slippers, but unexpectedly, I was scooped right up into his arms. Arthur placed me on the bed in the room, knelt on one knee, and cupped his hands over my feet. His palms were warm, and soon the chill I had picked up from the floor disappeared. He then carefully put my slippers on for me. I looked down at the man on the floor, unable to resist asking, who is that girl at the door? He looked up at me, Assistant Yang's intern. What's her name? Arthur thought for a moment, something Shin. Full name? Forgot. My mouth twitched. Dear readers, your male lead seems to have forgotten the heroine's name. Not long after, a flurry of triggered comments appeared. Author, get out here, what kind of garbage are you writing? What the hell? I came here specifically for the domineering CEO versus resilient innocent girl tag. You're telling me the male lead doesn't even know the heroine's name right now? False advertising. I'm reporting you. Actually, I want to say this spoiled heiress versus older daddy vibe CEO dynamic is pretty good too, and the pacing is fast. The replies underneath were just a string of ellipses. If I could like a comment, I'd definitely buy 10 million bot accounts to like that last one. Suddenly, a golden comment appeared in my mind. Author says, I don't know, my computer is just typing on its own somehow. Wow, paranormal activity in progress. Arthur expressionlessly handed the contract to the heroine. He didn't say a single word. Seeing the girl turn around, I suddenly remembered the comment about her getting hurt. I went pat in my slippers and ran over. I called out to her. The heroine turned around, looking at me blankly. Yes? Miss Chloe, do you need something? I shook my head. Be careful on your way to the office. If you really have to, just call an Uber, 3 I'll reimburse you. Her eyes sparkled. She probably didn't expect me to say that. Realizing what I meant, she quickly said thank you. The company will reimburse it. I nodded, be careful on the road. She smiled and nodded. Thank you for your concern, Miss Chloe. I added, watch out for e-bikes on the side of the road. She nodded gratefully, okay. Seeing her nod repeatedly, I finally felt relieved. Of course, I wasn't actually concerned about her. I just thought if she got hurt the comments would start cursing me out for trying to take her place again. As soon as I turned around, I saw Arthur with his arms crossed, his face a bit dark. I go to work every day, and you never tell me to be careful. My mouth twitched. I don't. The corners of his lips curled up indignantly. You can't wait for me to leave faster. Okay. Every time he left for work, I was still half asleep. And this guy was so overbearing. Every time he pinched my cheeks and kissed me a bunch of times, deliberately waking me up, just to tell me he was going to work. Waking someone up from a good dream who wouldn't be annoyed. I smiled guiltily, but I'm thinking about you even in my dreams. Hearing that his expression finally softened a bit. After washing up, I was just about to happily grab my phone and scroll through some TikToks. Arthur snatched it away, like he'd seen a ghost. I looked at him and blinked, completely confused. What's wrong? He pursed his lips and tossed his own phone to me. He said quietly, you haven't checked my phone in 2 days. In the past, let alone 2 days, checking his phone was my mandatory nightly routine. I was used to being domineering since I was a kid, and I was incredibly territorial. I absolutely would not allow anyone else to touch what was mine. So, besides being overbearing, I was also very possessive. Because of that, those damn floating comments had cursed me out 100 times over. Saying I was mentally ill, saying no man could stand that kind of controlling behavior. Thinking about it now, they had a point. No matter how strictly you control a man, he has legs. If he really wants to leave, no one can stop him. So, I handed the phone back. Nothing worth checking. Here, take it back. He looked at the phone, his face looking a bit unnatural. Over the past few days, Arthur had aggressively brushed up on his relationship knowledge. He knew clearly that a woman only controls a man when she loves him. If one day she suddenly stops asking and caring, it probably means she doesn't love him anymore. Thinking of this, his grip tightened, his throat feeling dry and painful. He took a deep breath, suppressing the discomfort, and gave a simple, okay. But the moment he took the phone back, a flash of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. It was all that wild dog, Mr. Q's fault. Arthur didn't give me my phone back. Instead, he handed me an iPad. The iPad screen is bigger, it's not as hard on the eyes. Your phone is dead. I'm going to charge it for you. I hugged the iPad and nodded. I hadn't finished my novel last night before Arthur came and seduced me, so I really did forget to charge it. After lunch, I was just about to take a nap. I saw Arthur tying his tie. I walked over and, in a rare display of goodwill, tied it for him. As soon as I finished, this guy grabbed my waist, lifted me up, and set me on the counter in the walk-in closet. He lowered his head and kissed me. It was rough, but I liked that kind of thrill. After kissing for a good while, I panted and rested my head on his shoulder. I hummed. My lips are... He didn't seem to care, just kissed the top of my head and patted my lower back. There's an auction coming up with a lot of jewelry. I'll take you. My eyes lit up, and I was just about to say yes, but the comments appeared again. Is the female supporting character even an heiress? Why is she more of a gold digger than I am? It's different. Didn't the author make her family nouveau riche? Loving money is normal. Unlike the heroine, a resilient, independent boss babe who can live brilliantly even without the male lead. That's the kind of person who deserves to be the heroine. I don't know why the author gives so much screen time to this dependent little parasite. Looking at the comments, I felt a surge of anger. There are plenty of men who want to buy me jewelry. They only get the chance to buy it if I give them the time of day. My family has enough jewelry to crush someone to death who cares about this little bit. Annoyed, I decided I didn't want it. Hearing that I didn't want it, Arthur frowned. Why? I thought for a moment. I have a lot already. I just want to buy things for you. If you don't spend my money, whose money are you planning to spend? That wild. Before Arthur could finish the word, he stopped abruptly and gave a light cough. I quickly said, "Oh, just go to work already." Arthur gave a muffled His face was dark, unable to hide his disappointment. A man's mind is really hard to figure out. Why is he unhappy when I'm not spending his money? So weird. Every time I tricked my dad into buying me something, he always looked like it pained him. He'd even wail, "My sweet girl, this is the stash money. Your dad saved up for half a year. Go easy on it." I never understood that. What kind of coal baron gets managed so strictly by his wife that he has to hide a secret stash? Shouldn't he just be tossing black cards around? But he would always say with absolute pride, "A man who loves his wife prospers. If it weren't for your mom supporting me all the way, I'd still be collecting scrap." Because of that, I learned from my mom. I loved managing my man. After all, everyone wants to be the head of the household. Quinn instantly looked horrified. "You don't have a crush on me, do you?" Holy shit, I'm straight. Straighter than rebar. Inside the coffee shop, two grown men staring each other down. The first sentence spoken was, "Why is it you?" Quinn crossed his arms and sat across from Arthur. "Why did you use my baby sister's phone to ask me out?" Arthur really hadn't expected that the wild dog he hated to the bone was actually his brother-in-law. For a moment, he felt a bit speechless at himself, but realizing that his sentimental brooding was all for nothing, he couldn't help but let the corners of his mouth turn up. Even his gaze toward Quinn softened considerably. Quinn was very suspicious. "You're acting weird. Let me get this straight. I absolutely will not do anything to betray my baby sister." Arthur still didn't speak. He just smiled pointlessly at Quinn. Quinn instantly looked horrified. "You don't have a crush on me, do you?" Holy shit, I'm straight. Straighter than rebar. Arthur rubbed his temples in exasperation. "You're overthinking it. I asked you here to inform you that I'm planning to propose to Chloe." Quinn looked at him with sheer disgust. "You're not proposing to me, so why are you telling me?" Arthur gave a dismissive, "Oh, all right, we're done here. You can go." Quinn's eyes widened. "That's it? Are you messing with me?" Arthur raised an eyebrow, leaning back slightly, looking like an absolute boss. Quinn suddenly remembered something, laughed out of sheer annoyance, crossed his arms, and said cockily, "Arthur, you acting like this almost makes me forget you originally got your position by stealing someone else's girl. No wonder you're in such a rush." Hearing this, Arthur let out a light chuckle. He said concisely, "You should know, he's not good enough for Chloe." Quinn thought about it and felt he had a point, but he still smiled maliciously. "I heard Henry is back." Hearing this, Arthur's face went cold. Seeing this, Quinn gloated a bit. Feeling the pressure now, huh? Although the news made him unhappy, knowing that the wild dog was actually his brother-in-law, Arthur's mood was absurdly good. When he got home, he couldn't even keep the corners of his mouth down. As soon as he walked in the door, he hugged me and kissed me several times. He really is a hard-to-read man. Lately, I didn't know what got into him. Arthur was incredibly clingy. He even wanted to bring me to the office when he went to work. How did a perfectly good, aloof CEO turn into this? I was scrolling through videos in his office when a message suddenly popped up on my screen. My heart leapt with joy, and I looked at the man currently working. Henry is back. Hearing this, Arthur's hand paused. He gave an inch, and then there was total silence. Arthur's dislike for Henry probably started when he and I got engaged. Actually, my original fiancé wasn't Arthur. It was his cousin Henry. Henry and I grew up together. We went to the same elementary, middle, and high schools, and our family's mansions were right next to each other. We were basically like two kids sharing one pair of pants growing up. In my mom's words, keep the wealth in the family. We were a match made in heaven. But despite both our families actively trying to set us up, it never happened. The main reason was that Henry already had a girl he liked. It was actually Arthur, who inadvertently told me. At the time, I had just gotten back from a trip. Henry was supposed to come pick me up, but when I opened the car door, I saw Arthur. He said, "Henry had something to do, so he asked me to pick you up." Arthur is quite a bit older than us. When we were little, Henry was mischievous and frequently got disciplined by Arthur, which led me to be a bit afraid of him too. Sitting in the car, I asked obediently, "What did Henry have to do?" Arthur steered with one hand and said flatly, "I heard he's pursuing a girl recently. So, he didn't come pick me up because he wanted to find that girl?" I don't know. Great. Right then and there, I decided I was going to strangle that idiot when I got back. When I got back, under my intense interrogation, Henry acted as shy as a new bride and finally admitted it. He even begged me to cover for him. I was furious. "I'm your fiancé-to-be. You asked me to cover for you while you chase another girl?" My heart is freezing cold. Henry held my arm and whined for a long time. I shook him off in disgust. I really couldn't stand seeing him act so pathetic, so I agreed. But somehow, the whole thing got exposed. Henry got a beating from his dad, and he thought I was the one who sold him out. We gave each other the silent treatment for a long time. At the time, I was so mad I swore I would never speak to him again in my life. Later, Arthur came into the picture. And this guy actually went to my mom and recommended himself. I've always been a sucker for good looks. Arthur was the only son of his family, handsome, great body, and even though he was a bit cold, he was unimaginably more reliable than Henry. And just like that, we ended up getting together. Actually, I have a secret I never dared to tell anyone. I secretly liked Arthur for a long time. When I was a freshman in high school, some punks outside the school robbed me of my money. Bet you didn't expect that, huh? Even a princess like me had moments of defeat. But I was so pissed off afterward that I hired people to beat those punks up. Things escalated a bit, and it ended up at the police station. I was scared like a little quail, terrified my mom would find out. My brother was going to college out of state, so I had to swallow my pride and call Arthur. When Arthur found out, the first thing he said when he arrived at the police station was, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." I remembered that "don't be afraid" for a long, long time. Then he turned around and coldly said to the police, "A child from my family was robbed right outside the school gates. Your department bears the main responsibility for this. As for teaching them a lesson, that counts as ridding the public of a menace. You should be giving her a medal. I'm taking the kid. If there's an issue, contact the Sterling family's legal department." Afterward, with a cigarette hanging from his mouth, standing outside the police station, he looked at me and laughed out of anger. "You're pretty capable, aren't you? Even know how to get into fights now." I gave a sheepish smile. He raised his hand and rubbed the top of my head, messing up my hair. The fluttering heart of a teenage girl probably started from that head pat. So when he came to my family to propose an engagement, when my mom asked me what I thought, I nodded. Counting the time, we've been together for 2 years. Henry eventually broke up with that girl. Heartbroken, he started working hard and went abroad for further studies. When he left, he was crying his eyes out, telling me to wait for him to come back so he could be my bridesmaid. I slapped him right then and there and told him to get the hell away. As soon as Henry got back, he messaged me. He said he booked a table and told me and his cousin we had to come to welcome him back. Arthur didn't say much, just agreed. But when we went home to change clothes, this guy started acting crazy. He wouldn't let me wear high heels. He wouldn't let me wear short skirt. He even kissed all my lipstick off. I was furious. I spent 2 hours on my makeup. "You ate all my lipstick." He raised an eyebrow. "On my lips? Want me to print it back on for you?" Me. Suddenly realizing something, I narrowed my eyes. You're acting weird. I went up on my tiptoes and sniffed his neck. Smells like a huge jar of vinegar. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. He lifted me onto the vanity, placed his hands on either side of me, and smiled. Yeah, I'm dying of jealousy. I wrapped my arms around his neck and comforted him. Oh, come on. Henry and I are totally innocent. He doesn't like me, and I don't like him. Besides, he has a six-pack, you have an eight-pack. He's 6 feet 1 inch, you're 6 feet 2 inches. You crush him in every single category, okay? He laughed out of pure annoyance. Every word sounded like it was ground out from between his teeth. You sure know a lot about him, even though he has a six-pack. I was speechless for a second, quickly explaining he's always posting his workout progress on Instagram. I just accidentally saw it. Unlike you. Yours, I personally counted one by one. Plus, I know you even better. You're still 18. He was finally coaxed into a good mood and let me go. By the time we got there, almost everyone was already in the private room. The people who came were all our usual close friends. So, once we started having fun, we couldn't hold back. Glass after glass, by the end everyone was a bit dizzy. Arthur had to carry me back. As soon as we walked in the door, I tearfully wrapped my arms around him and whined. Darling, my head spins. Arthur helplessly fed me a hangover pill. He coaxed me for a long time. I don't know what got into me, but I hugged Arthur and refused to let go. I slurred and asked him, when are you going to marry me? I don't want to give you up to the heroine. As I spoke, I pouted, feeling wronged. I'm so pretty, my body is so good, and I have money. If you dare not marry me, I'll bring home 10 husbands just to piss you off. This totally baseless threat actually made Arthur laugh. Marrying 10? That would really kill you from exhaustion. I lifted my chin. Then I'll marry 2030. Never mind, I'll reluctantly let you be the main one. Arthur shook his head helplessly. I kept humming and whining endlessly. Are you going to marry me or not? I have no idea how I ended up falling asleep in the end. I only remember that when I woke up, there was a pigeon egg-sized diamond ring on my finger. My mind involuntarily replayed scene after scene from my drunken state, thinking about the very end, how I was actually begging Arthur to marry me. I had no face left to see anyone. I buried my head in the covers and wriggled like a caterpillar. The moment Arthur pushed the door open and saw me like that, he shook his head helplessly. He dug me out from under the covers. I looked indignant. I don't care, you have to propose to me again. Last night doesn't count. He smiled and said okay. Seeing that, I haughtily lifted my chin. Of course, I might not necessarily say yes. He gave a light chuckle and kissed me for a long time, almost vengefully. Finally, I relented. Fine. Seeing how pitiful you are, I reluctantly agree. But this pigeon egg is a bit small, not worthy of this princess. Arthur helplessly said okay. I pouted. You're just humoring me. I'm not. You are. The next second, he kissed me deeply again. Epilogue. Arthur truly started seeing Chloe as a woman. At her 18th coming-of-age ceremony, she was wearing a gorgeous evening gown, a massive bow tied at the back. In front of a room full of distinguished guests, she skillfully played a piano piece. When the song ended, the whole room erupted in applause. At that moment, Chloe held her head high, smiling radiantly, incredibly proud. Arthur had always known that Chloe was a confident girl, but watching the scene, Arthur inexplicably felt that Chloe was like a cat, like an expensive Persian cat wearing a bow. Later, Chloe went off to college. The Henry family and the Davis family thought the two kids were grown up, so they had the idea of a corporate marriage. This troubled Chloe greatly. Arthur asked her, do you not like Henry? Chloe shook her head. If you make him my husband, I definitely don't like it, but as a good bestie, I do like him. Hearing this, Arthur felt like a weight had been lifted off his chest, though he didn't know why. If you don't like him, just say so. Chloe sighed. How can I say it? What if Henry likes me? Wouldn't I break his heart too much? After all, I'm so outstanding. The chances of him liking me are very high. Later, he inadvertently found out that Henry had a girl he liked. So, he indirectly told Chloe. Chloe was furious when she found out, and Arthur felt very uncomfortable inside. After going back, Arthur figured something out. He felt that Henry wasn't good enough for Chloe. So, who was good enough for Chloe? Arthur thought about it for a long time, and finally only came up with one person. That was himself. So he played the villain once. He leaked the fact that Henry was secretly dating. Afterward, Chloe and Henry got into a huge fight. She lay in the courtyard, crying her eyes out because she felt wronged. Arthur happened to see her and asked, why are you crying? Chloe said, that bastard Henry wrongfully accused me of snitching. I hate his guts. That day, Chloe was very sad and cried for a long time. Arthur just sat quietly in front of her, waiting for her to finish crying. After the little girl had cried enough, she huffed indignantly. I'm never talking to Henry again. He smiled and said okay. He thought for a moment then added, he's dating someone else. It's not right for him to not talk to you. And he wrongfully accused you. That's a heinous crime. Chloe nodded in agreement. Right. The Davis family and the Henry family no longer had any possibility of a corporate marriage. But Chloe's mom was a very enthusiastic person. Every time she saw Arthur, she'd ask, Arthur, are you dating anyone yet? If not, Auntie will introduce you to someone. Arthur smiled and shook his head. Chloe's mom would then start talking endlessly, but the person she was introducing wasn't Chloe. It was Chloe's older female cousin. Arthur really couldn't bear to listen anymore. He interrupted Chloe's mom. A moment later, he said, Auntie, I actually like Chloe. He essentially stole Chloe, even though doing so wasn't very honorable. But the education Arthur received since childhood was, if you want something, you go fight for yourself. But thinking about it later, he was the one who protected Chloe as she grew up. Once she was grown, she should marry him. The end.